I was surprised in kind of researching for this episode to learn about the rise in labiaplasty and penile augmentation. These are probably new terms for many of the listeners. For someone that is completely new here to this, perhaps we could start by explaining what labiaplasty and penile augmentation are.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've been called labia lady for I reckon about 10 years now, because I did my PhD on this. So it's something I've loved for a long time. Labiaplasty, I should say, I think the numbers are leveling off a little bit with labiaplasty, but there certainly was a huge increase there for a while. So labiaplasty is the reduction of the inner vaginal lips, known as the labia minora. And some people have nicknamed it the Barbie doll surgery because Barbie doesn't really have any visible external genitalia. So people are sort of wanting a kind of smooth pubic mound look. Yes, it certainly was popular there, at least in the 2010s. And in terms of penile augmentation, so that can mean a lot of different things. I suppose the two main are sort of lengthening and thickening. There's a lot of interesting types of surgery going on, and I should say none of them are evidence-based. The particular type of penile augmentation that I've done a lot of research on is girth enhancing and through fillers. So it's the same type of fillers you'd get put into your face, you can put them into the penis. So with women, it's they're getting tissue chopped off, and for men, it's that they're enhancing their genitalia.
What was it that popularized labiaplasty, in the early 2000s? And I think another term that kind of gets thrown around, and maybe you used it in your TED talk, was designer vagina.
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly what it was that caused that significant upswing. I mean, people will say, because of one Sex in the City episode, everyone started removing all their pubic hair and then they could see their labia minora and they didn't like how it looked. And then a surgeon was like, I can help you with that. Obviously a lot of different factors, pornography, obviously becoming more accessible, people not relying upon dodgy dial-up internet so they could actually watch more pornography. As I mentioned, pubic hair removal, a lot of more sheer fashions as well. So things like leggings, yoga pants, that kind of stuff where people might see if someone has a larger labia minora. Yeah, there just seemed to be this genital ideal that didn't really exist before for women. Probably just a whole combination of factors.
Is that part of the vulva, the labia minora? Is that an important tissue? Is it kind of needed for any particular reason?
Yeah, it is, and I'm sure we're finding out more and more things about it, but certainly sexual arousal and lubrication, it's important, but also just when women urinate, the labia minora makes sure that the urine goes in like a particular stream, that it doesn't just spray everywhere. And also the labia minora protects the vaginal opening against any, potential foreign bodies, infections, that kind of stuff.
Is there any long-term data with regards to the outcomes? So obviously there's the kind of more immediate outcomes, how women feel about themselves afterwards, but also the longer-term outcomes around arousal and lubrication and satisfaction with sex, etc.
I wish I'd seen something like 10 years post, and also sort of women who are having it in their 20s. I wonder what happens during menopause. So I wonder if we're hitting some of that data now. I hope someone's doing that research. I wish I was doing it. In menopause, that tissue tends to atrophy anyway. So if you don't really have much of it, what happens then? And certainly we saw that if people had labiaplasty, they were opting for cesarean births so that the vaginal canal wasn't, damaged in any way. Yeah, I'm not exactly sure. They tend to report greater sexual satisfaction, but I always think these are people who may have been very self-conscious, not even able to have any sexual partners. So the surgery is like, well, at least I can have a sexual partner now. Like it's just, it's opened up an avenue for them that they may not have had before. But I do wonder about the actual sexual functioning part.
And is the main motivation for women to undergo labiaplasty appearance, from porn, like you mentioned before, and society, culture, movies, Barbie, etc., or is it also to do with how it feels?
Yeah, and certainly when we ask women this, it usually comes under a couple of categories. Appearance might be top rated, but function is coming a very close second. They'll say absolutely they don't like the look of it, but they'll also say it's difficult to manage with toileting. Maybe it hurts when they go bike riding, like on the bike seat, horse riding, maybe when they wear certain types of underwear. So I think it's quite hard to disentangle that. I think once you don't like the appearance of something, you'll notice the function of it more, and vice versa. So I think it kind of becomes a bit of a vicious cycle. And I suppose that just while I have the platform, I'm just like, well, can't we change like bike seats to suit labia instead of chopping off labia? But anyway, if any bike producers are out there, come chat with me.
Educate me, us. What's the difference between vagina and vulva anatomically?
Vagina really is just that sort of inner canal where obviously babies are birthed out of, where a penis and other items can be inserted. So the vagina is really just the inner bit, whereas the vulva is kind of the whole outer bit. So the lips, the labia majora, labia minora, the part of the clitoris is on the outside. So yeah, it's people will use them interchangeably, but they're quite different.
And you did a study with 343 girls looking at educating teenage girls about the anatomy of their genital region. What can you tell us about the study design, what inspired it, and kind of what the main take-home messages were?
Yeah, I've actually read that paper recently because we've just made an intervention for people with a penis. So we're going across the gender spectrum there. So that was a 2019-2020 study. Shout out to my former honours student and now research assistant Naleshni Fernando for that. So we kind of knew that there was this educational piece missing, that women didn't really know the anatomical terms. And they certainly really hadn't seen many other women's vulvas. And we took the opportunity really to make this short video that talked about diversity, that challenged that Barbie doll look and encouraged women to embrace their genital anatomy and using the correct terminology. And we found that it actually was really successful, which was great. Like, you always hope for these things, but certainly in the 16 to 18-year-olds who we surveyed, it did help improve their appearance satisfaction, lowered their interest in labiaplasty, and improved their knowledge quite a lot.
So that was with teenage girls. Is that where the increased incidence or interest, I should say, in labiaplasty is coming from, that population, or is it older women?
So that population doesn't usually have the financial means, but that can certainly be when appearance concerns start. They might be starting to have relationships and maybe comments from sexual partners. So it is a good age group to target. But in terms of those actually accessing labiaplasty, it's more like sort of early to mid-20s. And then there's another pocket of women, generally sort of 35 plus, who may have usually had children and are looking for some kind of rejuvenation.
Do we need to, as a society, get more comfortable talking about vulvas, vaginas, penises, and kind of just making that entire conversation less taboo?
I would love that. And certainly that's been something I've petitioned for a long time. I don't actually think we're that uncomfortable talking about penises and testicles, and generally people who own them know their terminology, know their functions. but certainly vulvas, vaginas, not so much. Although I wonder if there has been a bit of a trend of people being a bit more open about this. I hope so.
I think some people have concerns, and you may agree with me here or not, that discussing sexual organs, particularly with young people, is not appropriate. Is that kind of avoidance of the topic, is that contributing to shame and embarrassment that a young person may experience?
Yes, I think so. And I certainly, I mean, young people will ask these questions. Like, you'll get 3-year-olds who, they're taking a bath with a sibling and they'll go, why does theirs look different? The questions are being asked already. And if you don't answer them, then the child really has no other, I suppose, understanding than to think, oh, this is embarrassing, this is shameful, my parent or whoever it is won't even answer my question.
Someone needs to write a manual for parents with age-appropriate ways to answer these questions.
I think these resources absolutely do exist, and I'm a firm believer in using the correct terminology from the get-go. Like, don't use foo-foo or flower or whatever for vaginas, please. Use the correct term. You wouldn't say thingamajiggy instead of arm, and finger sausages or whatever for hand, or they need to be used correctly. And I suppose something that isn't so talked about is, and unfortunately this is a reality, that young people who know about their private parts, they know about the names, etc., it seems that they are far less likely to be sexually abused because they know their bodies, they know their body autonomy. They've already had that conversation with their parents about these parts, so they can say, so-and-so is touching my parts. So this isn't just a fun thing. This is like your child's safety.
Yeah, that's really important. Thanks for adding that.